We've done offensive side of the football for a couple of these videos now, but how about we hop over to the defensive side of the football where we're going to do linebackers in this video. We got a lot of linebackers to get through. I kind of questioned what I should do, once you get past quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, you get past all those fun positions. Do I touch offensive or defensive lines? And I thought, I don't know how much opportunity there is going to be to watch games and watch these players. I don't know if you guys want to sit here and watch offensive linemen or if you're just kind of here for the data. Now, these videos at the start do typically move pretty fast, but we have a Texas State year one Heisman winning quarterback, so that's pretty wild to see. First linebacker goes to Alabama, and where this video is actually going to be a little different with the positions is I kind of wondered what I should do also about outside linebackers compared to middle linebackers, because one thing I think has always been an issue with these Madden and now college football, they need to update their dang positions when it comes to where they list everybody. The whole position groups that they have is outdated. I don't know why they just don't do edge rusher, interior D lineman, off-ball linebacker, because that's how it is in actual football nowadays. You don't really see typical outside linebackers, and then it confuses the team and it confuses the computer because some guys are edge rushers and some guys are 4-3 linebackers who should be, off-ball guys, and the computer sometimes doesn't always know what to do with them. I just lumped all the linebackers together, so we have a lot more range of outcomes when it comes to the archetypes and everything. We may get outside, inside, athletes, power rushers, coverage guys, so we're going to get a lot more different types of players when it comes to your off-ball guys, your 3-4 edge rushers, your 4-3 drop back and cover guys, your run stoppers. There's going to be a lot more players to cover, so I hope that makes up for the fact that there is going to be probably less gameplay when it comes to the defensive side of the football, because obviously when you're using linebackers or corners or whatever other position we may end up covering, they're going to have a less of an impact on the game and potentially have a less of a chance of getting to the playoffs compared to having a great quarterback, because you can have a great linebacker and he might not change the numbers that much when it comes to wins and losses. But we got the first couple of guys: Alabama, USC, Georgia. Not really anything surprising there, but the next guy we have, Kiki Cheeseman. We already have an early candidate for one of the best prospects we're going to find. How does it get much better than that? He is blazing fast. He's strong, great block shedding. That actually is one of the best prospects I have found here, and he's going to go to Auburn, and he is going to be a really fun player to keep an eye on. And also Kiki Cheeseman, really interesting name, good name. So it's nice to see that we have some good players off the bat. I didn't know really what we'd be expecting, because every time I've been predicting what these videos are going to end up being, I'm always dead wrong because I assume one thing and something completely different happens. That's the fun of these videos. Trevor Torrey is looking pretty nice right now, and a lot of these linebackers already looking pretty athletic out there, and it's going to be nice to see how good of an athlete we can get at the linebacker position. So we got John Wusu. He's a little bit more limited with some of his ceiling and his caps. He was just an impact development player. But then we can get to the highest overall player we have found on day one. In the quarterback video, we found like an 80 running back. We've hit like 81 receiver. We got about 80. How about an 84 overall linebacker? Star development. He is day one starting for them. That is wild. And you can let me know if you found anyone higher overall in base than that, because, for those of you who haven't watched the previous ones, I feel like it's important to reiterate just for, the continuity of all these videos. When I'm talking about these overalls, it's the base overall before any boosts from the coaching staff may provide to them. He's an 84 overall without any boost. He goes up to an 86, but you can see he's already getting some production in year one. The Alabama linebacker off the bat is already graduated. He did not get drafted. He did not really get all that much better, unfortunately. So Torrey, though, speaking of getting better, I mean, he's already looking 92 overall in base. He's looking really good. But man, 84 overall. Have you guys found a player that high rated off the bat like that? That is crazy. And then we got Wusu over here. He is taking a nice step up. The thing that is going to be interesting with these linebackers is there's a lot of good ones in these classes from year to year. And despite these high overalls, I mean, you can see he's an 88 overall and he's just off the bench still. Like, it's going to be difficult. Cheeseman, unfortunately, didn't take a big leap up in overall, which understandable in some aspects, but disappointing in others, because you start off at such a high overall, 84 overall. It'd be awesome to see him take like a jump to a 90 overall off the bat, but he doesn't, just a +1. Mario Friend, the next guy, got some really good skill caps, so, I want to see what he can potentially grow into, but, we're going to hope with Cheeseman he can, take a big leap up in his 3rd season, because he's got such a high starting point that it'd be, disappointing to see him not hit like a 90+ overall mark. We have Torre. He's making All-American. I mean, he's been, the best linebacker so far. I don't know how I feel about linebacker making All-American with those numbers. Cheeseman has another solid season, so we go there. We haven't seen anybody make the playoffs yet. Torre, he goes in the 1st round, so, that's a good start there. And Miami, look at that, back-to-back for them. And they are going to have Mario Friend and Dennis Bush. Wusu finally is going to get an opportunity to start at an 89 overall. It took him a while to get there, but by the end of his career, he's looking like to be a pretty solid player who's probably going to be a mid-round draft pick if at this projection, at this rate. Cheeseman, that's the big jump we are looking for from him, from an 85 to a 92 overall. And the cool thing about that is he's a 92 overall and he's going to be spectacular, but the disappointing thing is that might mean he's going to be going to the NFL real early. We were able to escape our little problem in the wide receiver video with none of the receivers getting cut. We have our first linebacker getting cut. We don't have to deal with that a whole lot in this video, just like a handful of them, but I bumped it up to 25 linebackers because, one, you always have to account for some players potentially getting cut, and two, there just won't be as much in the gameplay department because it's not like we're going to be, hyper fixated on these players. I kind of read the feedback in the comment section, and it was pretty split when it came to the wide receiver video. Some guys were like, yeah, you could play as the players, let them get some targets, let them get on the field a bit. And then some other people were like, no, don't ruin the experiment, don't mess with the stats, don't mess with anything. So I'm going to leave it be, at least for this one. We're going to kind of let the linebackers do their own thing as we hop into our first game. Auburn up by 10 with under 2 minutes to play, and that's going to be an interception. I want to try to get some action on the field as it's already been a couple of years. That's going to be a pick 6 for Auburn. But, it's a lot different using wide receivers. And, at the end of the day, the receiver still has to run the route, has to get open, has to catch the football. All I'm doing is throwing him the football. When it comes to using the linebacker, that's just 100% me, which I think is drastically different, which is why I'm just going to let them do their thing. We have a 14-14 game here, Auburn versus Ohio State in a big-time situation, trying to get to the next round of the playoffs, and a fumble there is going to be scooped up by Auburn, and they're going to get a big stop inside the 10-yard line, and Auburn's going to take over. Kiki Cheeseman trying to cap off his college career, because I know dang well he's not going back for a senior season. He's much too talented. If your agent's telling you to go back for a senior season with that skill set, then you must fire that agent, because that dude is going to be a certified first-round pick, and, an interception by the offense doesn't help, but the defense does their job, gets a stop. 14 points, and the Kiki Cheeseman-led defense allowed here, but the offense needs to help them out a little bit. They're past midfield at the 42-yard line, first down and 10, dropping to throw, and the quarterback's going to be going over the middle. That's going to be caught, first down, and inside the 20, timeout used. Minute 20 to go, now 3rd down, just trying to set up a field goal try. They center the football, and they will get that field goal try with 40 seconds to play, and the kick is good. Ohio State will take the field, and they have little time to go. 25 seconds now, throwing outside. That's going to be caught, and that's going to be in field goal range. Ohio State runs back to the line, spikes the football, and the field goal is up and good. We got overtime here, 17-17, 3rd down and 4, throwing end zone. That's going to be intercepted. Auburn takes it back, and they're not going to run it all the way to the end zone, but they are going to take it back, set up a field goal try for the win, and Ohio State goes down. Auburn moving on to the next round, and in a little national championship rematch from over a decade ago, Oregon, Auburn. Doesn't exactly go Auburn's way. We didn't even get a close one here. Oregon wins the national championship. Kiki Cheeseman will end his career on a sour note. When it comes to if these linebackers have good or bad seasons or not, I think it's more a subjective matter. There's more objective metrics for quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, yards, and touchdowns like that. But, depending on how much you value things like tackles or sacks or interceptions, fumbles for your players, then that's going to really determine how good you think these linebackers are. We, of course, see Cheeseman go in the first round. Leo Tiffin, the next guy, he goes to Oregon. If you're a big tackles guy, then yeah, Cheeseman, 117 tackles or whatever it was, pretty spectacular. If you value the sacks for, edge rushers and outside linebackers, then that's going to be, who you think is the best player. If you value the pass coverage, interceptions, and deflections and everything, it really all just comes down to who your preference is, and that's why I think this linebacker video is a little bit more open-ended and more subjective when it comes to who you think are the best players. But for me, at least, I'm looking for these outside linebackers who can go out there and get me double-digit sacks. I want a true edge rusher. I want to see if we can find, a spectacular pass rusher. So I want to see if maybe that can be a thing, because I have noticed that it's not the easiest to find some of those guys. But we hop into a Miami and Florida playoff game here, and Miami at 17-17 with the football, third down and inches, throwing on the outside. That's going to be intercepted, and Florida's going to take it back and go untouched for the touchdown. That's going to be a 7-point lead for Florida, and now there's just 2 minutes to play, as it's going to be Miami dropping back, play action, throwing, and over the head of 2 defenders, and that's going to be on the run all the way for the touchdown, and they strike very quickly, and now Florida has to go out, and they have to respond. It's 24-24, little time to play, under a minute, throwing, and that's going to be a flag on the play, and it's going to be pass interference, and Florida gets bailed out a little bit there, as now at the 20-yard line with little time to play, running to the outside, and he's got the corner, he's got the edge, he's going to get brought down at the 1, but they're going to set up a chip shot field goal, and it's going to be for the win. And Florida takes out Miami. So no playoff win for Dennis Bush, but I guess there's always next year for him. He'll be back for another season at Miami at least. And then we have the next player, Tresman Mangum. He's going to be going to Ohio State. And Bush, he's looking like a pretty nice player, 89 overall in base, so he's pretty in line with some of the other guys that we have had so far, and he is looking pretty good. These athletes at linebacker, I mean, a lot of great high-level athletes. I wonder if we're going to get one of these old-school linebackers. He's, rocking, like, mid-80s speed, but he's big and physical and is just a thumper in the middle. I want to see if some of those guys exist. I would imagine that probably wouldn't be the archetype of a number 1 linebacker, but it'd be nice to see some variance when it comes to some stylistical players and, see if we can get one of those guys in there. Mangum, he's got some decent ceiling caps. He's going to be a potentially nice player, star development, so that's looking good for him. I find it really interesting with these pass coverage guys. We got Kevin Hartman here, and I mean, this dude literally, like, build, skills, everything. Like, he could be playing safety. Also, we have a Toledo national championship appearance, but, Kevin Hartman out there, 89 speed, 79 zone coverage, 6'2", 220. I mean, he could play some safety if he wanted to. He's going to Syracuse, so, Syracuse I don't think is a school that's been on the board when it comes to getting one of these top-rated prospects, so nice to see a new team get into the mix. Bush, he's back for another season, his final one. He's still at an 89 overall, but he's got some good traits, good attributes. Leo Tiffin, he's going to be here, and he's, like I said before, a little bit more limited, but he's at least, reaching his upside for the most part, and he could potentially max out if he, sticks around another year or two. Mangum, he's going to take a big step up from his freshman season. The unfortunate thing with some of these players is when I don't show you their stats, it means they just didn't play, or like they only played special teams or whatever. I'm not going to show you him playing special teams and getting like 7 tackles, or him being a rotation guy getting 12 tackles. Like, so if I don't show you a player's stats, it's just because they weren't the starter or they just didn't do much of anything. Kevin Hartman, though, he has elite development, so he could potentially be crazy because he's already got such a high floor to start with. He already looks like he could be a really nice player off the bat, and he's going to a school in Syracuse who, I mean, they're not some powerhouse school with all this talent, so he's going to be able to play pretty early. Bush, he never gets back to the playoffs, but he does get drafted as a nice player. Next guy we have, Britton Brisby. He's going to be pretty solid, and he's going to get to at least play with Tiffin for a little bit. So Oregon currently has 2 of the linebackers. We're going to hope they don't do what Miami does and cut one of them. But, you know, 2 linebackers in the same room, going to be nice for them. And despite Mangum being pretty high overall, and he's done a lot when it comes to some of his attribute caps, and he's gotten almost max in 3 different ones, he's still not going to be a starter for Ohio State. And it really would be interesting if some of these players were to go out here and transfer. Hartman didn't get to play much at all in his freshman season, but here he is now starting as a sophomore, so we're going to get to see 2-3 years of him playing if he can develop well. We have Brisby. He is going to be pretty nice, a nice +5 overall jump for him. So he's still got a lot to go when it comes to his development, a pretty sky-high ceiling for him. And then we move on to the next guy, Jojo Mechie. And again, just kind of like Kevin Hartman, he's 90-ish speed, you know, hovering around there, around 80 coverage. Like, these guys, crazy athletes with crazy coverage ability, it's really cool to see. And these are some spectacular players who have so much positional versatility. Hartman, you can see what he did in his first year getting to play. Mechie's going to go to Boise State, so, you know, another unique school on the board. We don't usually see Boise State. They had one in the receiver video, but you know, less said about that receiver, the better. Tiffin and Brisby are going to be kind of duoing up here, as Tiffin's going to be the first player of this video to get to a 5th season. A lot of these guys don't get a red shirt because, you know, teams rotate a lot of linebackers and you get a lot of players on special teams. So, you know, it's not going to be like quarterback or running back where, you know, they just maybe don't need a red shirt. They don't get a red shirt. But, you know, linebackers, corners, safeties, all these backups, they play special teams. So red shirts just aren't possible. So when you get some of these guys going into a 5th year, it's going to be pretty cool to see what they can do when they get that extra year of development. Kevin Hartman, I mean, he is looking pretty good right now. And look at that athleticism. Are you kidding me? I said he could play safety if he wanted to coming out of high school. You could put him at corner if you wanted, I feel like. 99 stamina too, athletic monster, can cover. I mean, this dude is probably everyone's dream user player at the middle linebacker position. So he's going to be spectacular, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can elevate Syracuse to a point where they can be good, because I want to see him in some action. We have the next guy on the board, Nate Alexander. He's going to be the number 2 overall prospect at a field general linebacker, so something a little different, and Syracuse does make the playoffs. Unfortunately for the boys at Syracuse, they ran into Oregon, who has 2 of the linebackers currently playing, that being Leo Tiffin in his final season and Britton Brisby. So we were going to follow the winner of this game regardless. It was Oregon pretty comfortably. Then they smack around San Jose State in the playoffs, 54-16, and we are struggling to get some action because this Oregon team is so dominant. And once again, they got Ole Miss. That's a legit opponent right there, and it's 42-9. And this defense is putting on a generational performance in this playoff run. I mean, you run through those 3 playoff games, that is 10 points allowed, 16 points allowed, 9 points allowed. Now we're in the national championship against TCU, who only has 13 points. But TCU having an opportunity to potentially seal this game, and it's going to be a run right up the middle for a first down, and TCU threatening to put this one away once and for all. Incomplete pass here on 3rd down. It's going to be a field goal try, and Oregon has allowed 16 points once again, and this time it's going to be up to the offense to see if they can do anything to help them out a little bit. Throwing over the middle, that's going to be caught for a first down and a lot more. They are at the 45-yard line, just about first down and 10. Throwing, and outside, that's going to be caught, and he's on the run, and that's going to be a touchdown. He got by the last defender, and Oregon has the lead, 1-point lead with 40 seconds to play. Defense trying to cap it off, and they do. Intercepted, and Oregon takes it back, and Oregon down inside the 20, 1-point lead, interception, and the defense has a spectacular run. 4 playoff games and not a single one in which they allowed over 16 points. That is spectacular, as the defense, who, as you'll see, had a lot of NFL talent once we cover, you know, Leo Tiffin getting drafted. And trust me when I tell you, Leo Tiffin was not even close to the highest drafted Oregon defender, because that defense was absolutely stacked. And I mean, you could just see it by the scoreboard, but my goodness, they had 3 defensive ends, linebackers, every single player on that front 7 seemingly got drafted to the NFL, and they still have Brisby for this season and probably a couple of other talented players. Unfortunately for us, we still see Mangum. He's one of the best players on the team. Except the problem is he's, behind another great player. Like, it's been unfortunate for someone like him because he's a really nice player, but he just can't get on the field. Hartman, I mean, we already see his generational athleticism. He's already taken Syracuse to the playoffs one time, and we'll see if he can do it again, but he is definitely going to need some help. He can't do it all by himself. Brisby, he's taken a pretty big leap. He's up to a 91 overall in just his 3rd year. The Oregon's already adding on to the crazy amount of defenders that they're going to be having going to the NFL. I mean, they're looking like Georgia from a couple of years ago. JoJo Mechie, I mean, he's been playing, he's been on the field early on in his career. He's still getting better, and he's looking pretty good for Boise State, a whole lot better than the last time they got a 5-star player in one of these videos. We have Nate Alexander now. His skill cap's not anything crazy, but he's on Clemson. He's an impact development. He starts off as a 78 overall, so good starting point, good place to land. We got another pass coverage linebacker here. He's not quite as crazy as some of the other ones that we have found, but still pretty good in his own right. And we go to the next season where we have some potential playoff action here. Syracuse. Hartman is an All-American player, so I mean, he went out there, he did his thing. Brisby, he did his thing. He was an All-American player, but Syracuse is up by 1 here, 25-24 with 4 minutes to play, and they were unable to pick it up on 3rd down, so they punt the football back, but Wake Forest on a 3rd down, and he gets stopped right up the middle. Now 4th down and 3, they punt the football back, and Syracuse trying to maintain this 1-point lead, throwing over the middle. That's going to be caught, and 1st down, running to about midfield. And now clock is running with about 2.5 to play. Handoff, running back breaks a tackle, and he gets the first, so keep that clock on moving. Under 2 minutes to play, 3rd down and 1. They sweep it. He tries to bounce it inside. He gets the cut up, and they run out the clock there. That was out of timeouts for Purdue. They kneel it, and they get a 1-point victory. So Hartman is able to help Syracuse get a playoff win. Now they're going up against Auburn, 3-point lead. But Auburn would have run up the middle, breaking a tackle into the red zone. They go just a few minutes to play, and Auburn just trying to take the lead here. They could tie it with a field goal, but they take the lead with a touchdown. And Auburn now is going to look to their defense. Hartman, I mean, Syracuse only allowing 20 points. That's not bad. You should be able to win a game if you're only allowing 20 points, but not if your offense immediately throws an interception and gives it right back in enemy territory in red zone position. 3rd down, trying to seal the game, throwing up the same, and that's going to be a touchdown for Auburn. And the offense might have just robbed that defense of a potential victory. Hopping into the sim, it's going to be Syracuse scoring a touchdown with 20 seconds to play, but ultimately that's going to be pretty meaningless because they can't get the onside kick. So it's going to be a 27-24 victory here for Auburn. Syracuse, though, I mean, that's a pretty valiant effort to go and get your team into the playoffs. Go and do what you can as the leader of this team. He's going to be an NFL player with that athleticism. I want to know what 40 time he's going to end up running, because that is ridiculous. And we have NFL level talent here all going to the league at once, as this is going to be a pretty interesting year. Hartman goes in the 1st round, so he goes to the NFL after his 4th year. Mangum stays a 5th year. He goes a bit later in the draft. And Brisby, after a 3rd year, he goes and he's a 1st round pick. So 3 players at once all going into the NFL. A 3-year player, a 4-year player, and a 5-year player. So we're a little light on talent in the pool of players right now because 3 of them just left to the NFL. But we still have JoJo Mechie, who's looking pretty good, and he's going into his 3rd season, so he is going to be definitely someone on the NFL radar at one point. So we're going to see if he can continue to grow. Maybe he could elevate Boise State. I always get interested to see once these top tier players go to some other schools that are outside the powerhouses, and if they can elevate them. In Hartman's case, he was able to get Syracuse to 2 playoff appearances, so you can overall say that's a big success, a player that can help turn around a program. And that's also a great thing about these videos. What players can we get here that can completely change the entire trajectory and complexion of a team's program? Next guy here, Boudreaux, is going to be a really nice athlete, nice tackler. Absolute liability in coverage. It looks like 60 zone for a top-rated middle linebacker. It's a little rough. We got Mechie, who seemingly got banged up in his third season. Still produced decently, but getting banged up obviously is always, not going to be good for your draft stock. But Mechie, I guess he didn't care that he got banged up. Look at the absolute monster that he has turned into. That is a 95 overall linebacker. He goes and takes a +8. I mean, that's crazy. I don't even know where that came from. Alexander, I mean, he's getting pretty nice. Even though he had some limited skill caps, he's still going to turn out to be a pretty nice player for Clemson. So we're going to see now that he's going to get the opportunity to be, one of the defensive captains and one of the top players on this team. Miami with a linebacker, let's hope they don't cut them. Miami's been loving to mess with these videos when it comes to cutting some of these players. They've already cut one in this video. They cut one in a previous video. Tired of these guys at Miami. And Boudreaux, pretty nice. I mean, he's going to be at Oklahoma, 78 overall, star development. And Oklahoma's got some pretty crazy boosts. I mean, he's a 78 overall, but he's boosted all the way to an 84 overall. Devon Radigan is our next one, and he is a gem for us. And interestingly enough, we've not had any busts yet. And Radigan, I mean, power rusher, good speed, good power moves, good everything. A nice different switch up an archetype. Mechie, I mean, he is a 95 overall player. He goes out there and makes All-American. And, Alexander, he's in his third year. He's the starter. He's doing his thing. Mechie, no surprise. He was a first-round pick. I mean, just based off his overall, he was probably like a top 10 pick. Radigan, he goes to UCLA. Alexander, he's going into his final season. He basically is almost fully maxed out at a 90 overall. So despite his a little bit more limitations for him, he still ends up being a really good player. Chick for Miami, thankfully, just doesn't go and get cut like he does. Well, Miami loves cutting all these players, so he's going to actually get to play out his career. He's going to be really nice overall, too, and he's been, he hasn't really done a whole lot yet, but he's going to be a nice player. Boudreaux, he's going to be an 87 overall. And once again, I want to draw the attention to the fact that Oklahoma, I don't know who their coaches are, but the fact that this 87 overall is at a 94 with boost is ridiculous. Radigan, he is going to be an elite dev player, and he is definitely one of the more fun players, one of the players that I'd like to have on my team. Like I said, I kind of favor the more pass rushers types, and getting a really athletic power rusher like him is really cool. Next guy, Walter Leak, is going to be a run stopper, so 13th player in the nation. We have some playoff action though. Clemson is getting a first round bye, and they are here down by 7 against Nebraska, so it's going to be up to them to try to do something on offense, maybe get a stop on defense eventually, as under 2 minutes to play. They're going to be throwing right side. That's going to be caught in traffic, and he took a shot. He hung on to it. 3rd down and 10 now inside the 20, throwing, and Clemson rolling right into a sack, and it's going to be 4th and long, and they need a desperation 4th down and 18 conversion, throwing, and it's going to be caught and on the run into the end zone. Touchdown for Clemson, and you cannot let a 4th and 18 go like that for you, as it's going to be a quick little 3 and out for the offense of Nebraska. So Clemson now, they have the football with an opportunity to take the lead. Throwing over the middle, that's going to be caught, and these Clemson receivers are hanging on for contact now, just a couple of yards away from field goal range, and they're going to get a lot more than that. That's going to be inside the 10-yard line. Goal to go. Clemson's just going to go down and kick the field goal now, not even bother taking any risks. Nebraska's going to have no time left, and they are going to go down 27-24. Clemson is on to the semifinals here against Kentucky with a 6-point lead. Kentucky speed option. He flips it out last second, and that's going to be a touchdown for Kentucky, who is now going to be on top by 1. An odd 29-28 score as Clemson will throw over the middle. That's going to be caught. Broken tackle, and he's outrunning the defense, and it's going to be a touchdown for Clemson immediately. And they respond. 2-point conversion to make it a full 7-point game. Rolling right, throwing to the running back. The outlet has it for the 2 points, and now it's going to be up to Kentucky to try to do something. Throwing outside, that's going to be caught for a first down. to the 45-yard line. It's going to be first down and 10. Kentucky to the air, and this one will be thrown underneath, caught. It's going to run up ahead for the first down to about the 40-yard line. First down and 10 at the 41. Drop into throw. That's going to be down the left side and caught for a touchdown, and they got beat on that one. It is 36-36, and we got a wild one here with less than 2 minutes to play. Clemson, first down and 10. Throwing. That's going to be caught, and once again hanging on in traffic. That's what these Clemson receivers have been doing at the 30-yard line. Handoff. That's going to be finding a lane, and about at the 20-yard line, red zone opportunity. They go and get it to goal to go, where they punch it in for a touchdown, and Clemson is now up with a 43-36 score. Now dropping to throw. Kentucky, clean pocket, throwing, and that's going to be intercepted. And look who it is. It's the linebacker, Nate Alexander, who seals the game. And we finally get to see one of our linebackers come out and make a massive play. He gets the game-sealing interception. And look at that stat line. 500 yards, 96 completion percentage, and it's going to be a national championship appearance against Auburn, and Auburn starts that with a great run. It's going to be third down and 3, though, as Auburn throwing underneath. That's going to be caught right at the marker. He goes up ahead for a couple extra yards, and now in the red zone. Auburn, first and 10, trying to get that full 6-point lead, maybe 7 if they go for 2, but they're going to get sacked here. It's second down and 24. Now looking at a potential field goal, and they're going to drop to throw, and that's going to be 2 straight sacks. He goes down again. It's third and 31, dropping to throw, and he gets sacked again. It's fourth and 37. They're out of field goal range, and they're going for it, throwing it deep to the end zone, and it's intercepted. And what a crazy 4 plays for the defense. But now Clemson turn into the offense to try to seal it. They can't do it. They're going to punt it back, and now Auburn's got another shot here throwing over the middle. That's going to be caught, and they whip on a tackle, and he gets all the way inside the red zone. That got him about an extra 15 yards. Now goal to go, handing it off. That's going to be a clear lane and a touchdown for Auburn. 2-point conversion to try to make it a full 7-point game. Throwing over the middle, caught, and he hangs on in traffic, but we jump ahead. Under a minute to play. It's fourth down and 3. Clemson hasn't done much, and they try to hand it off on 4th and 3, and that is a very questionable call. Not only a questionable call, but one that doesn't work out, and Auburn wins the national championship. And despite some of these defenses kind of doing really good things in these games, it feels like the offense is now the ones kind of letting them down, as 28 points is less than ideal, but it's not like the offense was helping them out a whole lot. And you can even see back to that possession where they got 3 straight sacks and then an interception. It's like you gave the team the ball with about 2 minutes to play to try to seal the deal, and they couldn't do it, and eventually the defense is going to break, and then in that situation the offense just completely failed there. So unfortunately Alexander is not going to win a national championship. Chick is going to be looking real good at Miami. Oklahoma, now they got the other guy, Walter League, so they're going to have 2 linebackers in the last 3 years, so they're going to be potentially having a pretty stacked room, because Doug Boudreaux is looking pretty nice. He didn't go up any overalls this year, but I mean, look at the boost he is still getting. Who is this coach? Who is on this staff? Send him to the NFL, because these guys are ridiculous. We have Radigan, who I do like his skill set. He's just not getting to play quite yet. That definitely has been something I have noticed with these guys, is they do take a little bit longer to play, even if they are higher overalls, or they're getting in on some sub packages. And I think that this maybe what the game needs to do a little bit better at, especially when it comes to like edge rushers, is teams have edge rush rotations. Teams rotate players in and out, and the game doesn't really depict that. It's not been something that's been in Madden either. Any of those types of criticisms, it's been like Madden things too. It's not even really a criticism on this game. It's just something that just hasn't been implemented. Things like pass rush rotations, and teams that have deep rooms, you would think some of these talented players would get on the field. We see Chick, he gets drafted. Rathman, he goes to South Carolina. And Boudreaux, you can see what he is up to. I mean, he is a 91 overall in base, which is impressive on its own. But the fact that with these boosts, he is all the way up to a 97 overall, I need to know why they are not going out here and making playoff appearances and doing all these crazy things, because this is a pretty wildly talented room of players. I mean, the fact that you could just have like any mid-80s overall player like a Walter Leak at an 84 overall and have him at a 90 is ridiculous. This team, I don't know what's going on the offensive side of the football. They need to figure it out, because you should be going and competing for the playoffs every single year. Radigan, again, I really like the skill set that he has to offer. He's just not onto the field yet, so he's doing, kind of whatever there. Rathman, we've had a little bit of a run of elite dev players, so, he's another one that we have here, and that's going to be 3 in a row in terms of elite development guys that we have. So one of these guys is going to come out here and be spectacular. We have George Chance, just a regular run-stopping linebacker who is kind of the more uninteresting type. I feel like run stoppers maybe the more unspectacular type of player. Also, Oklahoma, once again, they didn't even make the playoffs, and look at all the talent that they have on defense. And Boudreaux, still no playoff appearances though. George Chance was a Maryland boy, and he goes to Maryland, so it's going to be nice to see him in his home state. And again, just seeing something different for a player going somewhere else, as Radigan is finally going to get an opportunity, I think, to get on the field, potentially. We'll see. Walter Leak, I mean, again, these Oklahoma guys, crazy overall boost, so he is going to be made to look maybe far better than what he actually is, but I don't know if it's going to result in any sort of team success. Rathman here at South Carolina is looking all right. He takes a pretty adequate boost. +5 has been something we've seen a decent amount in a first to second year type of jump. And then we go to George Chance. He is going to end the run of elite dev players, but a star dev player is still good nonetheless. And even though he is star dev, he has some limiting attribute caps. So I do think that in my time kind of looking at this, I feel like run stoppers maybe the least good. I could be wrong there. Maybe, that's something I'd have to put to the test with a lot more simulations. And it's really interesting. I will say, Ben, you people really like just me sitting here, just watching a bunch of nonsense happen and just a bunch of computers playing each other. Because it's crazy when I go and play the Baylor Dynasty, or I'll play other things. It's like, nah, man, we don't want to see you play the game. We want to see you watch the game. So, I mean, that's cool. That's what you guys want to see. That's what I'm going to be doing. I also do want to sometimes play the game, though, so I will be posting Baylor Dynasty still and everything. But it does have me wondering if there's any other series you want to see. I mean, do you want to see a Dynasty series where I spectate the team that I control and I'm just strictly the head coach? Do you want to see some other form of series? I have these, following the #1 overall recruits, and I'm going to eventually get to the one that everyone wants to see, which is the #1 overall player in the country. That's kind of like the saving that one for last, though. It's, once you get through all the positions, you save that one for last. So, that's going to be an eventual thing. I have the one where I did the FCS schools. I'll probably do something else like that pretty soon. But, I mean, is there any other series? Eventually, we're going to run out of positions. Eventually, we're going to run out of stuff like that. I mean, do you want to just see me following random players? You want to see me be the coach of a team? You want to see a series? You like just one-off videos? I mean, any stuff like that. I mean, just let me know what you want to see in that regard, because obviously we're going to run out of, stuff like this eventually, and I want to keep the ideas flowing. I want to keep things going. And you could see Maryland out here. That is, what in the world happened here? I mean, they beat Michigan 44-0. That is a crazy team. They lost their opener and then ran the table. But what's even more crazy is they're the biggest frauds I have seen. I thought we were finally going to get some action here, and they go and get stomped by Oregon 48-3. What is wrong with them? How you go and beat Michigan 44-0 and then get stomped out by Oregon like that? George Chance was out here actually playing too, and he did a whole bunch of nothing in that playoff game, I guess, as no one really did much of anything. We have Rathman, doing his thing at his 3rd year at South Carolina. Leak, again, I guess it doesn't matter how good these coaches are. Oklahoma can't do anything. But we actually have some movement here, which is really interesting. Rathman transfers from South Carolina. 3 years at South Carolina. He goes to Georgia. Oklahoma goes and grabs another linebacker. So we're going to have, maybe another chance to see one of these guys do something. But it's really cool that we actually see one of these players transfer. And the thing about it with Rathman was he was actually playing. So it wasn't even like a playing time type of transfer. He just transferred because, I don't know, maybe coach prestige, championship contender, something like that. I don't know, but he wanted to move. Chance, I mean, he's already at a point where he's basically capped out. And I said he had, a bit more limiting ceiling. So, I mean, he's going to cap out as a player who's probably never even going to hit 90. We have Zach Schumacher, who's going to be, you know, really athletic, of course, like some of these other guys. He's here at Penn State. He is a spectacular player. He's also was the #1 prospect. So the interesting thing here is Schumacher and Jeremiah Paul both were the #1 prospects in the entire nation in back-to-back years. Yeah, but going back to what I said before, I just want to know what else you guys want to see. If you ever want to just see some more chill content, you know, some other Road to Glories, I can do a Road to Glory where I'm just kind of putting myself in the game and just chilling, talking football, answering questions or whatever. If you want to see chill content, I like talking about football. If you want to go and see, you know, me talk about a bunch of football, you can, my Twitter has been like in the description of all the videos, so you can go and check that out. I post like a bunch of stuff for football mainly, but you know, whatever you want to see, I'm fine talking football, playing football, watching the football. I'll do whatever, basically. I just want to know what you guys want to see, though. Especially because with some of these videos that I make, I mean, these ones, the simming 20, 25 years of #1 recruits, I mean, when we're going 25 years of linebackers, because the last linebacker in year 25, you have to simulate like another 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. We're simulating basically through a whole dynasty. As Zach Schumacher, which is really interesting too, he transferred to Virginia Tech, and a bunch of actions going on because Jeremiah Paul was the #1 player in the nation, and he got cut by Oklahoma, which is ridiculous. He wasn't that bad. I mean, he was an elite player. He was the #1 player in the nation. He got cut. That's fun. Schumacher, of course, like I said, transferred to Virginia Tech, but these videos take a absurd amount of time to make. I mean, you could probably imagine just simulating 25, 30 years. That in itself takes a while, and then writing down all the info, recording, editing, all this other stuff. So it'd be nice to see if I could find some other videos that maybe don't take as long to make so I could upload a bit more, because it's hard to get more than one of these types of videos out a week. I try, though, and I try to make sure I at least get one out a week, but I was up recording this one very late and, you know, going crazy trying to, you know, make sure I can get this one out in a good amount of time. Virginia Tech out here, 41-0 over Stanford. Then they go, it was a close game, but it was one of those games where it was like a fake close game where like Tennessee scored at the end, made the score look a little bit better than it was, but Virginia Tech's been handling business here, and, you know, unfortunately for them, they're down by 10 here in the national championship, and I just tried to hop in, see if they could do something here. Fortunately, no. They turned the ball over on downs, and, you know, it was one of those games where they just kind of lingered around. I tried to hop in, see if they could get something, maybe pull themselves into it. They could not, and unfortunately for them, they're going to lose the national championship. But we haven't seen many playoff runs, but the ones we have seen, I mean, they've gone all the way to the national championship, win or lose, and you can see what Schumacher does. You know, he gets put in a new system, a new scheme, and he goes nuts when it comes to sack production. Now we have Jerry Smith going to Notre Dame, so another new team to this video, but really interesting to see because Schumacher is a pass coverage archetype, and he transfers to Virginia Tech where they basically play him as an edge rusher. That's one of those things where, you know, going back to what I said earlier, it's like, man, the game kind of like confuses players because he's a 4-3 outside linebacker. He goes and transfers to a 3-4 school, and he goes and now plays edge rusher. Now he's playing it really well for some reason because he just has such physically athletic tools, and maybe he's just like a Hassan Reddick type of player where he's just got so much athleticism off the edge or whatever the case is. And I don't know, but like that's something I think the game does need to straighten out. But it's cool to see that a pass coverage archetype can still transition and play some pass rusher if he needs to. We have a playoff appearance for Virginia Tech once again. In this dynasty particular, I've seen UConn in the playoffs quite a bit, and they've been getting into the mix quite a bit. They're not going to have any success here, though, as Virginia Tech handily takes care of business, and they move on to a game against Tennessee. So it's a 14-14 game, 4 minutes to play, and there's going to be a big play, and there he goes. Is he going to get caught? He's got one man to beat, and he will not quite make it to the end zone. Inside the 15, though, as it's going to be a wildcat formation for Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech goes nowhere. It's going to be a field goal try, though, as, you know, they bust up the wildcat in the goal line situation, which is really interesting. But it's going to be 4th and inches here for Tennessee, trying to get a big-time conversion, and instead Virginia Tech holds them. They're now a play away on 3rd down from sealing this game. Throwing, that's going to be caught at the marker, and he turns ahead for the 1st down, and Virginia Tech is moving on to the semifinals. And can we get our pass rushing beast, Zach Schumacher, to the national championship? Miami is going to have a big play inside the 20-yard line. It's a 21-21 game, few minutes to play. Miami throwing outside, caught, and just at the goal line, it's a touchdown. Now Virginia Tech has it, 21-28. 2 minutes to play, throwing, that's going to be intercepted. Miami takes it back, and now they are up by 7. Third down opportunity to get off the field. Virginia Tech has it with a stop, and they are going to have a 7-point deficit with just little time to play, and they throw one up. It's 4th down and 2. They're in the Wildcat here, and they go right up the middle, and they go untouched. A Wildcat 4th and 2 with a minute to play is a touchdown on 4th down. What a play call, and it works out. Now it's 28-28, 52 seconds to play. 2nd down and 2. Throwing, that's going to be caught over the middle, and on the run of the crossing route, he's going to go, and Virginia Tech, just like that, allows a touchdown in 2 plays. And now Virginia Tech has to respond. And I don't think they can run Wildcat here. Last play of the game, Hail Mary to try and tie this game up. He's got time. He's going to throw it, and it's not going to reach the end zone, and it's incomplete. And what a finish here in a Miami-Virginia Tech game. That was a crazy back and forth. That Wildcat call, I don't know what it was with Virginia Tech. They were calling some Wildcat plays. I cut some of them out because some of them just didn't work. But they had a lot of Wildcat calls. And how about Schumacher getting about 27 sacks in his final 2 seasons? I guess the transfer worked out big because he's going to go to the NFL as a true high-level edge rusher. I don't know why he's not getting drafted higher, because he is one of the better pass rushing guys that we have had, probably the best to this point. And I mean, when you're going out there and getting 27 sacks at Virginia Tech as a, a contending level player, I don't know why you're not getting drafted a bit higher than that, especially with some of the other guys that has been drafted higher and maybe has produced less. It's not even like his overall was all that low, but odd. Jerry Smith, he's over here with a lot of great skill caps. I mean, look at all that. He's got so much potential to be great. And we are down to the final couple of linebackers. We only have, I believe, 2 more that have yet to enter the college ranks. So we have another Oklahoma linebacker. Oklahoma, I mean, they have gone out here and snagged a bunch of these guys, and they have done a whole bunch of nothing with all of them. I think this is their 4th one. And we have the next guy here. It's going to be Josh Ferrero, a run stopper. So nice athlete, though. And Mike Matty had a 10-sack freshman season, kind of fell off in his 2nd year. 2nd to last linebacker. He's a Texas guy. He goes to Texas, so that's a nice fit there. Mike Matty is still looking really good, trying to just bounce back from a bit of a down year. But we are down to maybe the last 5-6 guys that still need to finish out their careers. We have 1 guy left in the high school ranks that's going to be joining on to the college football world. Jerry Smith is finally going to get an opportunity to play here at Notre Dame, and we'll see what he can do for his school. And then we have the next Oklahoma backer, who probably is going to be a pretty nice player and then ultimately underwhelm and not do a whole lot in terms of getting his team over the hump, because I don't know how Oklahoma's gone like every year not making the playoffs. Like, that never happens in these. When I simulate, Oklahoma's a pretty consistent playoff contender. Even if they're not making it every year, they're making it once every 3 years maybe. The fact that they just haven't made it in like a decade, I think, is just ridiculous. So the last guy is going to be Kelvin Leonard, a player who fits, the mold of a lot of the pass coverage linebackers that we have found. Similar zone, similar speed. Playoffs here for Wisconsin and Mike Matty. I said UConn kind of gets in the mix a lot in this dynasty, and not only did they get in the mix here, they went out and stomped Wisconsin. That is crazy. Matty doesn't have nearly as good of a year either in this freshman season. He got banged up, though, so he missed time. He's had a little unfortunate run here since that freshman season. Final linebacker goes to UCF. Mike Matty, once again, he's looking pretty good. I mean, he's kind of stagnated overall-wise. He's basically hit his ceiling, even if the attribute caps aren't capped out. But, I mean, when you're going out there getting hurt, getting 2 sacks, 3 sacks, I mean, you're not getting a whole lot of XP in development. And then we have Jerry Smith, who didn't do a whole lot, I guess. I mean, I thought he would have played. Sometimes they have instances where like they're the highest overall linebacker at their position, but they just don't play a lot because, you know, they separate the linebacker from edge rush and everything. And, you know, they have rush edge and then outside linebacker. And then some teams only use 2 linebackers. You have the 4-2-5s, you have the 5-1 formations. And sometimes some linebackers just don't get in the mix. And certain teams prioritize left outside linebackers getting a certain amount of playing time or right outside linebackers. So just because you're maybe the highest overall or certain spot on the depth chart doesn't always mean you'll play. It's weird how the game's kind of structures that. But the second to last linebacker, Josh Ferrero, got cut. And then I was so tired at this point, I didn't even realize this mistake I made. You could see I clicked on Kelvin Leonard, and sometimes the game will do the thing where you click on a player and it just kind of clicks you onto somebody else for some reason. So I didn't even notice this until I went back and edited the video and everything. I was just so tired. I was like 12 hours into recording. That's just my mistake. He was a player who was, you know, 79 overall star development. You'll see his development, but that was just my mistake. UConn also just smacked around Wisconsin again. So I guess Wisconsin just can't do much of anything. And Notre Dame here down by 8, 2 minutes to go. I wanted to hop in, see if they can get a game-winning drive. And literally the first play I hopped in, interception, and Ole Miss is going to take out Notre Dame. So, I mean, a pretty whatever ending for Notre Dame. But I mean, Jerry Smith finally got into the mix, double-digit sack season. Mike Matty came out there, actually, you know, replicated what he did as a freshman, even exceeded that. And then Jean-Pierre, I mean, he broke his tibia, so unfortunate for him. And Kelvin Leonard, he went out there, had some, you know, nice production as a freshman. Matty goes in the first round. He deserved it after 2 double-digit sack seasons and, you know, saving his best football for last. Jerry Smith going into his potentially big season here, the peak of his powers. And with Josh Ferrero getting cut, that means we are down to the final 3. Jerry Smith here at Notre Dame. We have Wade Jean-Pierre, who had the broken tibia, so he's going to have to try to, you know, bounce back after a big time injury. He still got a little bit better though, which is, you know, nice to see even after a big injury where he didn't get to play at all basically in the season. He played like 2 games or something. I don't even know. Kelvin Leonard, he did take a nice jump up. I mean, getting that experience as a freshman, getting to play that much as a freshman, pretty big. You know, that's what the benefits of some of these guys going to some of these mid-tier schools, these outside ranked teams, outside playoff contenders. And nice to see we finally got an award winner, Jerry Smith, best linebacker, because he goes and puts up a historic season for Notre Dame. I've been waiting to see something like that. How about 22.5 sacks at Notre Dame? That is awesome to see. And the thing that is great about him, he was actually like a designated player that could do that, you know, power rusher. He doesn't go in the first round, unfortunately. But, you know, the other guy in Schumacher was a pass coverage guy who they kind of morphed into an edge rusher, whereas we had him, Smith, be a power rusher, be a true pass rushing guy, and he absolutely developed and capitalized on that. And now we're down to our last guy in Kelvin Leonard. We're just going to kind of wrap up his career, and now we're basically going to be getting on to the part that a lot of people love the most, which is the final tally, the final results, the final statistics, where we will determine all the stuff, where these players came from, their development path, the average stuff that you will see, the best players that we've seen throughout the entirety of this video. And as we put a bow on this, you know, section of the video where we see Kelvin Leonard's entire career unfold, he goes and gets drafted. But let's get into the final tally right now. Heading to the data side of things now, the discrepancy in location in this one was a lot bigger than in other ones. We've seen Florida, Texas, California be basically the top 3 producing of all the top players. But in the linebackers case, Florida was not only the top school, but they were by far the top school. I mean, for those who were noticing at the start of the video, like, I'm pretty sure like 4 of the first 7 or 8, they were from Florida, and that's how you see Miami ended up getting 3 of the linebackers, and UCF grabbed the last one. So, I mean, some of the guys, they left Florida and went other places, but half of them ended up staying within Florida. So, I mean, they were the dominant state. Texas, Georgia, Utah, California produced 2 to 3, and then there were a bunch of miscellaneous states in there that produced just 1 player. What about the information on these recruits that we got? We have a little bit more to run through because of the fact that it was all linebackers, outside and inside. Most of them were outside backers, 64% of them being on the outside, 6 out of 25, 24% being middle linebackers, and only a handful, just 3, were athletes, but I mean, one of them was the best player we found in this entire video. On average, the top linebacker in the nation, whether it's outside, inside, athlete, was about the 8th best player in the class, as high as the number 1 player. Twice the linebacker that we have found was the number 1 player in the class, as low as 28th. And when it came to the archetypes, because we had, 2 separate positions, we had 4 different archetypes. Run stopper, though, was the most prevalent, which is no surprise because the archetypes of coverage and run stopper cross over between both outside and inside linebackers, whereas power rusher is just outside, field generals are just inside. So run stopper or coverage was going to have the most. The slight edge went to run stopper. They are the most common, and I felt like the most unspectacular linebackers you'd find. They aren't the best of players. I felt like the best ones you'd find were coverage backers, because even some of them developed into nice pass rushers too, but they were the most athletic guys, and on top of that, they would come in high 70s with zone coverage and would be really good players. Power rushers, there weren't a lot, but the couple that we did find, there were some good skill sets in there, and then just 3 field general middle linebackers that we found, none of which were anything too crazy. Maybe the most surprising thing, not a single one of the 25 players were a bust. I don't know how likely that is to continue. If I were to have done 30, 35, 40, 45, like if I were to have just kept going, how long would it have taken me before I got a bust? But I didn't get any in 25, which is pretty crazy, but it's also not like I got a whole lot of gems either. Just 16%, 4 out of 25 were gems. Majority of the players were just straight on normal, quite the opposite of the wide receivers. Where wide receivers, we had busts, we had gems, we had everything in between. We had normal dev, impact dev, we had a whole bunch of boomer bust type of players. There wasn't really a whole lot in the linebacker department that was boomer bust. It was boomer, you were fine, and then it was reflected with the developments as well. Just 4 of them were impact. Everyone else, 21 of the 25, were either star or elite dev players. That is by far going to be the highest percent of any of these positions that we've done so far. I don't know if we continue and do all the positions that would be the highest, but it'd be hard to surpass that. Having 44% of them being star and 40% of them being elite. If you're getting the number 1 linebacker, at least based off this data, most likely they're going to be a really good player, and it's going to be reflected in the overall department too. The average overall of these players was pretty high up there, very comparable, and arguably maybe even better than the running back video, where running backs were flying when it came to high overall players. They were in and out of college pretty quickly. They didn't have redshirt years or whatever, and they were really good. I mean, these numbers are pretty comparable at running backs, so I mean, you're starting off 78-ish overall, 79 maybe. There weren't many low overall linebackers. We had 175, but everyone else was, I think, 77 plus. And obviously, with that Auburn linebacker, Kiki Cheeseman, we got an 84 overall. That's the highest player we found so far in the set of videos. So you're getting pretty consistent development. I did notice about a +5, +6 overall every first year jump just about. And by the end of your career, I mean, 89 overall on average is pretty good. I mean, not many players made it to a 5th season because, they're playing special teams. They're not getting a red shirt, but really good development for these players. On average, it's a +6, a +3, a +2. I mean, that's a plus, roundabouts 11 overalls that you're getting here throughout the entirety of your career. And the biggest jumper that we had a +9 one year. And like I said, there just wasn't as much boom or bust with these players. A lot of them were either pretty good or really good, and there were very few that were really bad. The first linebacker that we had was the worst one in terms of development. He only went up +6 his entire career. That was the worst one we found, but the rest of them were pretty consistent. We've seen at best a +16 jump throughout the entirety of the career, and we had a guy, Jojo Mechie for Boise State, go all the way up to a 95 overall. So you could get high overalls. There's a smaller chance that you'll get someone like that first linebacker we had at Alabama, but for the most part, you're getting pretty consistent, maybe double-digit overall increase throughout the player's career. And now getting to the extra info, we had a couple of unfortunate things, like 3 of the players did get cut. Now, that's not as bad as it was for the running backs, but also with the receivers, none of them got cut. So, You know, it happens, cuts happen. Unfortunately, it's just something you gotta deal with when it comes to the AI. Obviously, though, it doesn't really apply if you're going after these players. You're probably not gonna be cutting them, but only 4 of them made it to a 5th year, like I said. When you're playing special teams, as long as you are, you know, at least on the depth chart, you're going to be playing some snaps, you're going to be playing every game, so not a lot of opportunities for red shirts for these guys. But when it comes to their overall success, very good. 80% of them got drafted, 32% of them were first-round picks, and really cool, I think, is that 7 of them made an All-American team. That is definitely the highest we've had in any of these positions. They were making All-American teams. Maybe some of them didn't deserve them. Maybe it's a little bit more overall based, but they still made an All-American team. And finally, we could take a peek at the best of the best. And, you know, there's some fluctuating stats here because of the different types of players. For me, I obviously was, you know, kind of favoring the edge rushers, that the guys who were getting pressures, and guys like Jerry Smith were doing that. I mean, Jerry Smith had 22.5 sacks in his final season. Schumacher had back-to-back double-digit sacks. Absolutely should have been drafted higher. I know he was a lower overall. Jojo Mechie gets kind of a nod here because he was the biggest jumper, 95 overall. And then who I believe to probably be the top players that you guys would have liked, Hartman was someone who I think got up to 97 speed as a coverage linebacker. You know, he had 7 forced fumbles, 11 sacks, tackles for loss. He was flying around the field. I mean, 97 speed, incredible athleticism. And then Kiki Cheeseman was the generational talent type of player. He only got up to a 92 overall, but that's only because he was in college for 3 years. He was gone very fast, and deservedly so, because he was going straight to the first round. But overall, that's going to do it for this video, and you guys can let me know what you thought, who your favorite players were, and everything that went down in this video. Let me know what you think. Every bit of support is much appreciated. Like, comment, and subscribe. I want to make this a full-time thing. I want to be able to make videos full-time. I want to be able to get more videos out for you guys, and you know, the more support I get on this channel, the better. So all support is much appreciated, and until the next time, I will see you guys all in the next one.